Throughout the centuries, the island of Sri Lanka has had many names. The present name, Sri Lanka, was adopted in 1972. Formerly, during British colonial rule, it was known as Ceylon, but it's just one of many names Sri Lanka had in the past. Out of these, the name Taprobane caused quite a stir among historians and cartographers. Taprobane was a name given to Sri Lanka by the ancient Greeks. When Alexander the Great invaded India in 327 BC, Taprobane or Taprobane was described to him by his admirals. One admiral described the smell of cinnamon that came from the island he passed along the way as they were sailing around the southern tip of India. Other writers mentioned Taprobane too. Roman author and naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote a story about a man who got stranded in Taprobane. He writes that the forest of trees grew in the seas that surrounded the island and that its inhabitants hunted elephants, tigers, and turtles with large shells. Pliny also described that the island was inhabited by ceopods. Supposedly, these ceopods had one large foot, which they used for shade. In 290 BC, Greek explorer and historian Megasthenes also wrote about Taprobane. He mentioned that the island was divided by a river, which some claim may be the Mahabeli River in Sri Lanka. He further stated that one part of the island was filled with wild beasts and elephants, and that the elephants were better for war than those of India. So, how did the word Taprobane or Taprobane originate? In 543 BC, Prince Vijaya, after being exiled from India, came to Sri Lanka with his followers. Shortly after arriving, they noticed that the soil left a strange copper color on their hands and feet. Hence, the island was called Taprobane, which means copper-colored. Thus, the Greek word Taprobane is thought to be an alteration of Taprobane. Much was said and surmised about Taprobane, and it was initially charted in Eratosthenes' map of the world in 194 BC. It shows the island situated south of India called Taprobane. Eratosthenes also gave dimensions for the island. He wrote that it was 7,000 stadia in length and 5,000 in breadth. He also wrote that there were no cities on the island and that there were only villages, which numbered around 700. Later, this map was adopted by Ptolemy in 150 AD. The most fascinating aspect of this map is that the size of Taprobane is very exaggerated. If this is Sri Lanka, it's nowhere near the original size of the island, which is much smaller. As for the exaggerated size of Taprobane, there are several theories. One is that the size of the island was exaggerated due to its importance. By this time, Sri Lanka was internationally renowned for its trade of spices and elephants. Since Ptolemy compiled the map based on information from merchants, mariners, and travelers, they may have conveyed the importance of the island to him. Hence, Ptolemy made the island larger due to its international reputation. Another theory claims that the island noted as Taprobane in Ptolemy's map may show a part of southern India, possibly the Deccan Plateau. Another theory states that the size of Sri Lanka diminished due to coastal erosion. Hence, some believe that the size of Taprobane in Ptolemy's map may be accurate. But the question is, did Taprobane really reflect Sri Lanka? It's also important to note that Ptolemy never visited Sri Lanka, or Taprobane, personally. He recreated his map solely based on information received from mariners, merchants, missionaries, and other travelers. The often quoted saying by explorer Marco Polo about Sri Lanka being the finest island of its size in the world often leaves out information about its size. In 1293, Marco Polo was on his way back from China when he visited Sri Lanka. He claimed that in the old times, Sri Lanka's size was much greater and that it had a circuit of about 3,600 miles. He further claimed that the north wind had caused the sea to submerge a large part of the island, which is the reason why Sri Lanka is smaller now.